What a field day for the green. Cows and people in the street, singing songs and the carrying sign.
Anybody there, Tammy? Looks like we're still connected. Welcome to the Clay Douglas interview. Looks like Homeland Security's on the job and, well, trying to screw up your show and your listening enjoyment. But I could be wrong. It could be just an accident. I am supposed to be interviewed by Tammy from Texas and the mighty Phoenix, Russell Pappalardo. I am called in, I am tuned in, I am recorded on my end, but somehow I have lost Tammy.
I'm sorry, we have really had some problems tonight.
Hi, Tammy.
Our blog talk is not, our chat room is not open.
Well,
good evening
that's
and
probably...
welcome to tonight's show with your hosts, Tammy, Texas, and Russell Pappalardo, the mighty Phoenix. Our chat room, as I say, is not open, but please call in to our guest call-in number at 646-716-6393. Again, our guest call-in number is 646-716-6393. We welcome your questions or comments and are very glad that you've joined us tonight. And again, I'm very sorry that our chat room is not open. I paid for it, and I certainly want to get that fixed, but I can't do that right now. So I was working on that before the show opened, and could never get it to appear to me. So I don't know what's wrong with that, but we'll get that fixed. We've always had it before, and we'll have it back, I'm sure. But for tonight, just please call in to our guest call-in number and ask our guest and or us any questions that you would like. We welcome, as I said, we always welcome your questions or comments. And again, thank you for joining us tonight. Now, we've got a very special guest with us tonight, Mr. Clay Douglas. Mr. Douglas has a radio show of his own on Blog Talk. He has 4 documentaries that he's produced and narrated. And I'm reading from his own website here. He's hosted the Free American Hour on shortwave, satellite, and on the internet for 15 years. His guests on his radio shows and documentaries have featured presidential candidates, politicians, governors, and authors running the gamut from scientists, doctors, to bikers like Sonny Barker, founder of the Hells Angels. And over a 20-year period, he's published magazines in High Country, Writers Exchange, Thunder Riders, and has published the Free American News magazine for 15 years. He's produced and hosted expos across the country. He went to New Mexico to help start Indian motorcycles. He's the author of 2 series of fiction novels, and, you know, Mr. Douglas, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong on that, because you may have more than that by now. He's been published in Easy Riders, Biker Magazine, High Country Magazine, Fortune Magazine, Motorcycle News, England Indian Illustrated, Summer '94 issue, and let's see, Motorcyclist Post, Laughing Indian, Motorcyclist, Ratty Rag, Motorcycle Industry, Liberty News, Media Bypass, Resurrection Newsletter, The New Republic, The Money Changer, Hatch Courier, and The Free American. He's been the target of SPLC, which is, as y'all know, the Southern Poverty Law Center, which reminds me to say a big hello to Homeland Security, who I'm sure is listening to tonight's show, and probably the reason why I'm having all the problems that I'm having on tonight's show. Thank you.
Well, it's, I can accept
My goodness,
almost...
quite a resume, and I'm not sure I hit on all this man has done to bring people to the light of what true freedom is all about. So I hope that I've done at least a fairly decent job of what all Mr. Douglas has been doing. But I'm gonna let my co-host Russell, since he has known him and is a friend of his, I'm going to let him go ahead and come on and do a little bit more intro for Mr. Douglas, because, Russell, you've been friends with Clay Douglas for quite a while, haven't you?
Yes, I have. But first of all, I'd like to, before I talk about Clay Douglas, and Clay it certainly is the man, I want to tell all you fellas out there in Homeland Security, thank you for listening, and fuck you and your families. You're nothing but pieces of shit. All of you. You're traitors. You sold out for the Jewish shekel. Shame on you. I don't know how the frack you live in the mirror. Look in the mirror. You're probably a bunch of ugly pricks anyway. Anyway, let's get to Clay. In 1997, I bought a book in Borders magazine, Borders, and it was called Free American. I really got into it, and I said, wow, this is the best conspiracy magazine in the United States. You could, the racks in Borders and Barnes and Nobles were filled with this magazine. Well, all of a sudden I didn't see it anymore, and I couldn't get it, so I contacted Free American around 2001 or 2002. I actually forget. I must be having a senior moment here. But what happened was, me and Clay became friends, and I realized, holy crap, this guy knows more than I do. Now, Clay is, I believe, a Vietnam veteran. He is also, and this is a fact, I know all you bikers out there and all you people out there watch Sons of Anarchy. Clay is the writer of Sons of Anarchy. He sent it in to a Hollywood producer, and they stole it from him. Then they tried to kill him after he came out with a biker magazine, which he'll tell you about. Clay, truthfully, is the man, and if I was in the trenches in a battlefield against FEMA, DHS, the CIA, the FBI, and all the other scumbags that work for Obama's Zionist-controlled government, and Obama's just a turd, a heavy-duty puppet, but he does have a good tan. All of them out there stink. But if I was in that trenches, Clay is one of the very few guys I would want in with me, because he's a true warrior. He's a Gnostic spiritual warrior. And I've read, because he sent me and I've lost him, who was on my old computer, a lot of things. Great stuff. Really not only entertaining, but loaded with overt and covert knowledge. If you read between the lines like I do, you can learn a lot from Clay. Clay is the man. Like I said, he's an author, the producer of Free American, the real originator of Sons of Anarchy, and the bitches tried to kill him. But you know what? You don't just kill a guy like Clay. It's an impossibility. It's like killing me, because Clay has the ability, like the mighty Phoenix, to rise from the ashes and raise holy hell. And I want to say before I introduce him, go to freeamerican.com, and for a lousy, a measly, a pittance sum of only $2.99 a month, you can have the best conspiratorial fact magazine that the United States has ever produced. I would say it's even better than the Barnes Review, better than the Free American Press. Again, freeamerican.com. And I'll tell you, Clay, like us, don't make much money. We don't make any money doing this. Send Clay some donations and send Tammy some donations. You could call Tammy, and believe me, we'll set it up. And we're not asking for much. Only $1,000. I'm only kidding you. Whatever you can afford. I don't care if it's $10 or whatever it is. Get Free American Magazine. You're on the road to waking up. Clay, come on board. This is the famous Clay Douglas. Go ahead, brother.
I am here.
Hello, Clay.
Hello, Tammy. How are you, dear? I probably should apologize.
I've been better. I've had all kinds of problems tonight, Clay.
Well, I should probably apologize for that.
Talk.
You know, I should apologize for that, because anytime I come on the air, anytime somebody makes a mistake of telling them in advance when I'm going to come on, when I'm going to be here, then we seem to have all kinds of problems with the Skype, with the internet, and of course that comes from, I guess, being listed from Senate Bill 1959. They passed Senate Bill or House Bill 1959, which talked about homegrown terrorists. And what they tried to do is paint me as some kind of terrorist because I started the militias back in 1994. I was so outraged at what happened at Waco. I happened to be in Florida at the time, making pretty good money, sitting on the bank of a canal over there, and I saw what happened at Waco, and I was just totally outraged. Where's the Texas Rangers? Where's the DPS? Where's the Sheriff Department? Why are they letting this happen? And I swore I would never watch something like that happen again on television without trying to do something. What I did was start the Free American Magazine. I started this radio show that I've been doing for 20 years, and I started the militias in New Mexico. Southern Poverty Law tried to make that look, ADL, tried to make that look like that was some kind of terrorist organization. They just don't tell you that I did start the militias in New Mexico in the governor's office. No terrorist organization. And my question was, what part of the Second Amendment don't you understand? I called up the ADL after they listed me in armed and dangerous, and I said, congratulations, you assholes finally got something right. I am armed, and you mess with my country, you mess with my family, I'm definitely dangerous. Goodbye. Click.
Well, and the fact that you started it in the governor's office, and no one seems to know about that part.
No, they don't want you to know, but that governor ran for president last year before last, whatever that was. That was Governor Gary Johnson. He's a good man. He did a lot. He's done a lot and could do a lot more if they tell you about it. And you know, Tammy, I even tried to do things by the book. So I was the driver the bodyguard friend of a presidential candidate in 1996 by the name of Charles Collins. And Charles he was the first Republican to sign up for the presidency. I had him on my show, I put him in the magazine, and I flew with him from Maine to California doing all of the primaries. But you probably never heard of Charles Collins, because every time Charles got up to speak to tell the Republicans that we could buy back the Federal Reserve according to their own charter, we could buy the Federal Reserve back, wipe out a $6 trillion debt for $500 million. And every time he got up to tell you that, every camera on stage, ABC, CBS, CNN, turned the cameras off and pointed them at the ground. In 2 states, in Maine and Michigan, they unplugged his microphone while he was talking. I kind of lost faith in our election system, and I haven't bothered to vote or get active in this because there are good men out there, but you will never hear about them because of this Zionist control of our media. And I really couldn't figure it out. I was just astounded. Why would the ADL, Southern Poverty Law, the FBI be so worried about an old biker from Texas? I still don't quite understand that, except that except that I tell you the truth, I can't be hypnotized, I can't be brainwashed, I can't be controlled. And oh, by the way, I volunteered for Vietnam in 1964, but I never went. They tried to kill me before I got there, and the only thing I can really figure out, they gave me a bunch of vaccinations. Shortly after that, I got spinal meningitis, and I was the last one that they got to the hospital. So I wasn't even supposed to live back then, and I was already a little in the firing eye of our elitists, because I applied for officers candidate school. Huh? What's that?
How is that back then?
Well, I was 17 years old, and I applied for officers candidate school. They sent me into the room with a bunch of other guys and tested. I spent all day taking a test, and I was turned down. I didn't get officers candidate school, and I was pretty outraged. I went in kind of beating on the desk of the sergeant. I said, I want to know why I didn't get OCS. I have never failed a test in my life, ever. Oh, you didn't fail a test. You scored so high on the test, they won't let you be an officer. What? What? You only let stupid people become officers? No, but anyone with your IQ will question orders. They won't let you be an officer. A week after that, I was sent to the hospital with spinal meningitis, and I actually died. I went down that tunnel into the light, and what happened then, I'm not really sure. I either got barred from hell or kicked out of heaven. I'm not sure which. A few weeks later, I actually came out of it because they told me they had notified my mother up in Fort Worth. I was in Fort Polk, Louisiana. They told me they had notified my mother she was coming to see me. She was on her way. They told her I wasn't going to make it. and every time I would come back down that corridor, turn my back on the light, and come back into the hospital room, into my body in the hospital room, when I heard footsteps outside, I wanted to see my mother one more time. And the chaplain later showed up. Looks like you're going to make it, son. Now we can have you in that next graduating class. We can have you on that plane to Vietnam. Well, you know, Father, I will never follow the orders of an imbecile and idiots again. Well, we can ship you to Fort Hood and get you a medical discharge and a pension. I said, I don't think you understand me. From this day on, I won't salute. The best thing you can do is just let me go. If I could get out of this bed and walk, if I could get out of this wheelchair and walk, I'd walk out the gate right now. I don't want to go to Fort Hood. I don't want to go anywhere. And for 2 weeks after that, I'd walk around Fort Polk, Louisiana. I'd see an officer, he'd salute, and I'd shoot him the bird. So they got me out about a week later. And I've never followed the orders of imbeciles and idiots again. Now,
Wow, that's an incredible story.
You know, I kind of take credit for helping stop the war. I learned, A, that every plank on the Communist Manifesto is intact in America because I read the Constitution. I read the Bill of Rights. I found out what I took an oath to. And I was a little stunned that every plank on the Communist Manifesto was intact in America, and they paid more attention to that than they did our Bill of Rights.
Mm-hmm. No, they certainly have. Since how long has it been since we've lived under the Constitution or the Bill of Rights?
Well, I'd say that
And
was
not my lifetime,
before
not my
the Civil
lifetime,
War.
we haven't.
Before the Civil War. After the Civil War, they basically declared martial law and started their moves. But the whole thing started, plank number 5 on the Communist Manifesto was put in place by Hamilton, and to me, one of the person that we are to have more statues for is Aaron Burr, who shot the son of a bitch.
Yeah, another thing in regard to that Constitution, first of all, that Constitution was rejected by Patrick Henry, who would not sign it because it did not have a Bill of Rights.
That's right.
And also, it reads, after the balance of power niceties in Section 8, it reads clearly, however, the executive shall have the power to rule in all cases exclusively, which is the very definition of tyranny. So he wouldn't sign it, but when they compromised it, they compromised with Patrick. And Patrick called it a many-headed hydra, which, as you can see right now, the teeth of the hydra are upon us. And they compromised with Patrick by adding a Bill of Rights, but they wouldn't take out the other thing. And they also changed the original Constitution. Stated life, liberty, and the pursuit of property. Well, these demonic founding fathers, which were not so good that you think they are, didn't want you to have property. So they changed pursuit of property to the pursuit of happiness, which is a very ambiguous statement, because what's happiness? I guarantee you this. Nobody is happy today with that so-called Constitution. I have no regard for it. I only respect the Bill of Rights. And as far as the Communist Manifesto, Clay is right on the money. Because every platform of the Communist Manifesto, which was not written by Karl Marx, as you have been told. It was written by the Rothschilds, stemming off from the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion, which they wrote too. But every platform in that Communist Manifesto is a law in the United States of, I won't say America, I'll say Israel, because Israel owns the United States. Or I should say the Rothschilds, the synagogue of Satan, the Talmudic Jews own it all. And the AIPAC lobby controls every senator there is. every congressman, if you don't go along with the Israeli lobby, you cannot get elected, or you'll find yourself in a box 6 feet under. This is the cold reality, and if you think I'm telling you fairy tales, you're in Gaga land. You better do your homework. You better do your research, as Jordan Maxwell would say. This country is gone. There's no hope. The last real president we had was John F. Kennedy, and he was killed because he would not fund Israel the money to build, which in 2003 was the 4th largest nuclear arsenal in the world. They're the only country in the Middle East who has nuclear weapons. So all this bubble mice, as the Jews would say, about Iran having nuclear weapons is a big Zionist-controlled fairy tale. And if you Google it, Google Jews own 96% of the world media through 6 corporations, the father corporations. You'll find out they own everything. And if you trust the insidious Talmudic Jews who have taken down every country they've been in and have been kicked out of 109 locations since 250 AD, you need a fucking frontal lobotomy. No, I'm not playing nice. I'm telling it like it is. And if you don't accept this fact out there, folks, trust me, your children and your grandchildren and their children's children and their children's children will die 1,000 deaths each and every day as a Zionist-controlled slave under the Jew world order. And it's terrible that I have to say this, because there are a lot of Jewish people who I am friends with, well, a few, who don't follow this heinous, insidious, satanic doctrine. This is the reality, folks. And as far as what Clay was saying about Waco, Ruby Ridge, and I'll add the Oklahoma bombing, these were done not only to institute the first anti-terrorist laws in the nation that Bill Slick Willie Rockefeller, as I call him, because he definitely is Winthrop Rockefeller's son. And if you doubt me, buy the big book on the Rockefellers and look at Winthrop's picture. And then do some further research and find out his mother got knocked up while working in the mansion. He's owned by the Rockefellers, who are owned by the Rothschild family. But these all set up the Patriot Bill. Not the Patriot Bill, I'm so sorry. The anti-terrorist laws in 506. And also to demonize the militias, because they don't want an armed population.
That's why they blew up Oklahoma City, was to stop the militia movement that I was a part of and helped start. And they did it 1 year later. So when you come up on April 19th, you think about Oklahoma City rather than Waco. So this was, and Waco was a
murder of innocent people like Ruby Ridge.
Psychological operation.
Google, if you don't even have to Google it, all you got to do is go to YouTube or Google it. Who's responsible for the gun control laws in America? You'll find out since 1968, every gun control law was promoted by Zionist, Talmudic Jews, and of course, they're whores, they're sows, they're despicable caitiffs, the insidious, rabid, I'm sick even thinking of them, the Judeo-Christian Zionists who licked the Jews' ass. Go ahead, Clay.
Well, you're right, and I've got people going, well, yeah, I'm a Christian, and the Bible says that we're supposed to, that the Jews are the chosen people. No, they're not. Schofield said that in the footnotes of the Schofield Bible. And what Jesus said, now let's just take it from the horse's mouth. What Jesus said was, beware the Jews who say they're Jews but are not, are of the synagogue of Satan. Now, that's on the cover of my book, Mystery Babylon.
And not only that, if you read Deuteronomy in its entirety, you'll find out that Jehovah, who was really a Satan and a grandson of Enlil from the Sumerian tablets, told the Jews, told the ancient Israelites, that, not the modern day Khazar, Oriental, Turco-Finnish, Mongoloid Jews, that they were chosen to destroy the nations, and they're doing a great job of it, to form what you call the Jewish utopia, which to us, Gentiles, is a dystopia. And these people are not even Semitic, because if you read the genealogy of Japheth, you'll find out that Ashkenaz, because they're Ashkenazi Jews, Ashkenaz was the son of Gomer. And then it clearly said these were the lands of the Gentiles. And by the way, these people became the peoples of the sea who were defeated at the Battle of Megiddo, and then they migrated to Eastern Europe to become the Khazars, who may be the descendants of Attila the Hun. This is all fact, folks. You can't read a history book. You want to read a history book? Get a history book 200 years old and look up Khazaria, or Google Khazaria now. They converted to Talmudism, which became Judaism in the 17th century, because most of them lived in the ghetto. That's where you get the word ghetto from, on Judenstrasse Street in Frankfurt, Germany. This is reality. It's like their theory of evolution. Read the Protocols of Zion. It even says the Goyim swallowed our story about evolution. And if you think that Darwin created this theory of evolution, you're out of your mind. It was formed by the Rothschild family and written by Erasmus Darwin, a 33rd degree Freemason, who was the head, who gave it to Charles. Again, these people are devious. And by the way, that theory of evolution, if you go to a 10th grade history book, biology book, you'll see Professor Edwin Haeckel's drawings of how the chicken and the egg, blah, 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 blah. I mean, forget about it. It goes on. And yet, he broke down in tears at an academic trial in Jena, Switzerland, and admitted that his pictures in the biology books were lies, but they're still there. It's like the Anne Frank story. Anne Frank story was defeated in court, yet they still tell you about it, because it was written in ballpoint pen. There were no ballpoint pens until after World War II. It's hogwash.
Let me say something here. Let me say something here, Russell.
That would be great. It's hard to get a word in edgewise there. When
I know. I don't mind interrupting him.
You're supposed to be our guest.
I don't mind interrupting him. In the first, now the Free American, I actually started publishing in 1994. In 2004, March of 2004, I put Building Number 7 on the cover of the Free American, along with Larry Silverstein's quote saying he decided to pull Building Number 7. I pointed out that if he pulled Building Number 7, he had to have explosive planted in it before 9/11. And if that happened, if that was true, then what are the odds that he had explosive planted in the other two? And I referred to it as an exaggerated case of Jewish lightning. Now, that's when they tried to kill me. April 2004, the story broke in New York Times that George Bush had allowed the NSA to tap everybody's phones, but the NSA didn't tap anybody's phones. They farmed it out to two companies called Amdocs and Converse. And Amdocs and Converse were two Israeli-based companies that tapped all our phones. And mine was the first one they tapped in May 20th, 2004, publishing two magazines, Arizona's Thunder Riders and the Free American. I had just come out with my True Face of FEMA video, where I filmed the first Homeland Security meeting right after they rolled FEMA into Homeland Security, DHS. Colonel John Brinkerhoff was telling law enforcement, briefing law enforcement. I got in, I filmed it. In case of a single outbreak of smallpox in a major metropolitan area, we'll need 400,000 well-armed, well-trained, organized, disciplined troops to control the American people, because some of them just won't follow orders. No shit, Sherlock. Some of us won't line up on the Walmart parking lot and get a vaccination for a disease that's been eradicated in the United States for 100 years. And we're not going to line up and take a vaccination that'll give us a mild case of the disease, which is what vaccines are supposed to do. Some of us won't do that. And as soon as I came out with that, they arranged my accident. I called home and asked my son on May 20th, "Where do you need me to go next, son?" "Where are you, Dad?" "I'm on the north side of Phoenix, Sacred Skin Tattoo Parlor." "Oh, go down 24th Street to McDowell, turn left, go to the wheel shop. It's right there." "Okay, son, see you later." 2 blocks before I got to McDowell is where I got hit. I got hit by a woman with no insurance, no driver's license, and a borrowed car. And she had drug charges pending. She never went to jail. She never went to court. I never saw her again, and they got me in the hospital and kept me drugged for 3 months for 3 broken ribs. Now, I actually said all that to tell you about this. The magazine, the Free American, went down. They kept me unconscious for 3 months. I couldn't publish the Free American magazine. My sons kept Thunder Riders going because they'd helped me start it, and they kept it running. My sons and my wife kept it running. So when they finally told them to take me off of the drugs, 3 days later I was up walking and talking and doing pretty good. Doing just fine. Had to carry my coffee in my right hand because my left arm was still a little sore, from the 3 broken ribs, broken collarbone too. I had a broken collarbone, and 2 guys, blue pinstripe suits, show up. "Hi, Clay. How you doing? You been hallucinating?" And I had been, but I hadn't told anybody. I hadn't told my doctor. I hadn't told my wife. I didn't tell my sons. I said, "Yeah, a little bit. Why? Who are you?" "Well, you can thank us for that. We're CIA." "Yeah? What are you doing in this country? What are you doing fucking with me?" "We don't like you publishing that motorcycle magazine." I said, "The motorcycle magazine? That's just a motorcycle magazine. Free Americans want to expose you spook types in. Why would you care about a motorcycle magazine?" "Well, you paint a rosy picture of riding motorcycles. You got a big audience. We don't like that." I said, "I see. Does the term tough shit mean anything to you? Get out of my hospital." And as they were walking out, I stopped them. I said, "Boys, hey boys, listen. Man, thanks for the high, but frankly it wasn't nearly as good as that acid you brought in the 60s. Now get out of my hospital." 2 days later, they sent in the 3rd team. This was a little woman about 5 foot. She had a needle, a syringe about 8 inches long, filled with purple liquid, 3-inch needle on it. "Hi, Mr. Douglas. I got to give you this injection." "Yeah, what is that?" It's just a tranquilizer." "Well, you know, lady, I don't feel much like being tranquil today. I'll pass. Thank you anyway." You have to. I have to give you this." "No, ma'am, I got the right to refuse medication. I don't know who you are. If that was Kool-Aid, it'd kill a horse. No, I'm not taking it. You have to. I'm going to go get security, and they're going to hold you down. I'm going to give it to you. Go get them, lady." And she did. She came back with 4 uniformed St. Joseph's Hospital security guards. I took them aside, got them away from her, and I said, "Boys, a couple of things you need to know. 1, I'm not taking that shot. 2, while I was in Special Forces, they didn't teach me how not to hurt anybody. So here's what's going to happen. You, Chubby, I'm taking your throat out. You, I'm going to break both your arms. You, I'm going to break both your legs. And you, Shorty, I'm just going to smash your kneecap, but you may never walk again. Now, you boys ready to dance? Let's get it on." And they passed. They decided that really they weren't getting paid enough to do that, so they passed. A week later, I was well enough to get out of the hospital. And I've basically been in a war with them ever since. They contacted every stockholder, every advertiser in my magazine. I had my magazine sold to a publicly traded company for $500,000, and I still retain 50% of it. We signed the papers on Thursday. They put a press release out on Friday in Wall Street, and Monday I walked in, the CEO's white and shaking. I can't go through with a deal, Clay. I can't go through with a deal. They've contacted every stockholder in the company to told them what racist anti-Semite you are. So I walked away from that deal. And the Free American was already down. Thunder Riders stayed in business for maybe another 6 months. And I closed that down too. Now, approximately September of last year, after 10 years, almost 10 years, I brought the Free American back as an online magazine. And in that first issue, I've got a story. It starts right up at the top, talks about anarchy and martial law are just around the corner. And on the following page, I've got some quotes, one by J. Edgar Hoover, that says, the individual is handicapped by coming face to face with a conspiracy so monstrous he cannot believe it exists. The American mind simply has not come to the realization of the evil that has been introduced into our midst. It rejects even the assumption that human creatures could espouse a philosophy that would ultimately destroy all that is good and decent. That's J. Edgar Hoover in the Elks magazine of August 1956. And I said, this is the power of well-educated free Americans. I am so well-read, I have a little immunity from propaganda and programming. Never let anyone tell you that just one man can't make a difference. Most people do not have the time or desire to know the truth about everything. This is why they do not want me to succeed in reaching and educating the masses. The thinking people are out there. The articles included and linked here just showed up on my computer just this morning. Maybe the work I started 20 years ago is taking root now. That is the power of the Free American magazine now online. Now, what I've done here, I tried to bring the Free American back a couple of times. I got issues out, but I didn't get any sales, I didn't get any distribution, I didn't get any advertising. Why? Because the elite hate to see me prosper because I do call it treason. They toss out terms to demonize racists, haters, anti-Semites, anti-government, and now expanded that to include patriots. The slaves are awakening and rebelling. The banksters are scared. I do not want to overthrow the government. I want to restore our Constitution, and I want to restore our constitutional republic and our independence. I believe it's possible. After I identify those controllers of your information, ergo your thinking, I'm going to show you a way that as individuals you can oppose and defeat these predators of humanity on a multitude of levels. And I said, Jews attack me, but hear the words of an honest Jew who was not afraid to tell the truth. Jesus was not a Jew, and that was written by Benjamin Friedman, Jewish historian, researcher, scholar from Common Sense in 1953. And I also have told people this, so there ain't no such thing as a New World Order. The money changers Jesus ran out of the temple are still with us. They just changed the name of the temple. They call it the Federal Reserve Bank of England or the International Monetary Fund. But here is what Benjamin Friedman, who was there when they started World War I, he was there when they started World War II, and here's what he had to say. And bless you folks, I have tried to tell you, if you call yourself a Judeo-Christian, if that's the term you use for your religion, you might as well say I'm a satanic Christian. Friedman said, Christians have been duped by the unholiest hoax in all of history by so-called Jews. This is considered their most effective weapon. The big lie technique is brainwashing the United States Christians into believing that Jesus Christ was King of the Jews in the sense the so-called Jews today call themselves Jews. This reference was first made in the English translations of the Old and New Testament centuries before the so-called Jews hijacked the word Jew in the 18th century A.D. to palm themselves off on the Christian world as having a kinship with Jesus Christ. This alleged kinship comes from the myth of their common ancestry and the so-called Jews of the Holy Land in the Old Testament history, a fiction based on fable. American Christians little suspect they are being brainwashed 24 hours every day over television and radio, by newspapers and magazines, by motion pictures and plays, by books, by political leaders in office and seeking office, by religious leaders in their pulpits and outside their churches, by leaders in the field of education, inside and outside their curricular activities, and by all leaders in business, professions, and finance whose economic security demands that they curry the favor of the so-called Jews of historic Khazar ancestry. Unsuspecting Christians are subjected to this barrage from sources they have little reason to suspect. Incontestable facts supply the unchallengeable proof of the historical accuracy that so-called Jews throughout the world today of Eastern European origin are unquestionably the historic descendants of the Khazars, pagan Turco-Finn, ancient Mongolian nation deep in the heart of Asia. And hang on, I just lost my contact here. Let me bring us back up.
Blog Talk Radio. Welcome to Blog Talk Radio. If you desire to speak to the host, please press 1 at any time. You are now in the host queue.
Okay.
Yeah, they cut me off here. They cut me off here. They don't want this information getting out.
I'm sure he's still on, but
I'm here.
Okay, well he's dropped off.
I'm here.
Okay, now I think he might be back on. So
I am here. Yes, ma'am. I am here.
Yeah.
I
okay,
am
there
here.
you are. There
yes.
you are.
Yes, ma'am. They this is what they do. They don't want this information coming out. This is coming from a Jewish historian, this information I just put out here. And what he said is that these pagan Turco-Finn ancient Mongolian nation deep in the heart of Asia, according to history, battled their way in bloody wars from about 1st century BC into Eastern Europe, where they set up their Khazar kingdom. For some mysterious reason, the history of the Khazar kingdom is conspicuous by its absence from history courses in the schools and colleges. Historic existence of the Khazar kingdom of so-called Jews, their rise and fall, the permanent disappearance of the Khazar kingdom as a nation from the map of Europe, and how King Bulan and the Khazar nation in about 740 AD became called so-called Jews by conversion, that was concealed from American Christians by censorship imposed by the so-called Jews of historic Khazar ancestry upon all U.S. media of mass communication directed by them. In 1945, this author gave nationwide publicity to his many years intensive research into the facts of life concerning Khazars. The disclosures were sensational and very effective, but apparently angered the so-called Jews, who have continued with millions of other American. Oops, I'm sorry. What did I do? I missed that. They have continued to vent their spleen upon this author since then, solely for that reason. Since 1946, they've conducted a vicious smear campaign against them, thus seeking us to further conceal these facts for obvious reasons. What they have to fear, what they have to fear from the truth. In the original 1903 edition of the Jewish Encyclopedia in the New York Public Library and the Library of Congress appears a most comprehensive history of the Khazars. Also in the New York Public Library are 327 books by the world's greatest historians and other sources of reference, in addition to the Jewish Encyclopedia dealing with Khazar history and written between the 3rd and 20th centuries by contemporaries of the Khazars and by modern historians. Jesus was a Judean, not a Jew. During his lifetime, no persons were described as Jews anywhere. That fact supported by theology, history, and science. When Jesus was in Judea, it was not the homeland of the ancestors of those who today style themselves Jews. Their ancestors never set foot in Judea. They existed at a time in Asia, their homeland, and were known as Khazars. In none of the manuscripts of the original Old or New Testament was Jesus described or referred to as a Jew. The term originally originated in the late 18th century as an abbreviation of the term Judea and refers to a resident of Judah without regard to race and religion, just as the term Texan signifies a person living in Texas. In spite of the powerful propaganda effort of the so-called Jews, they've been unable to prove in recorded history that there's one record prior to that period of a race, religion, or nationality referred to as Jews. The religious sect in Judea in the time of Jesus, to which self-styled Jews today referred to as Jays, were known as Pharisees. Judaism today and Phariseeism in the time of Jesus are the same. Jesus abhorred and denounced Phariseeism, hence the words, "Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, ye serpents, ye generations of vipers." Now, I found this thought from a devout Christian years before World War II regarding the use of the figure of Jesus on the cross. First of all, the Bible tells us not to worship idols. Why would a church adopt the instrument of torture used to kill our Savior to worship him? Now, I did not...
I agree with that one, yeah.
And by the way, what they told me is that this figure that they use in the Catholic Church of a defeated Christ hanging on a cross, the sun they were referring to is the sun that is behind his head, signifying that the sun god was the ruler there, not Jesus. Now, I had this up on my website for some time. I didn't write these words, but
and what is your? Make sure that you tell us your website. We don't, as I said,
it is free. It is freeamerican.com. And what I'm sharing with you right now, the words of Benjamin Friedman are in the first restored issue of the Free American. And I've got it up 2 or 3 places on my website, freeamerican.com. You can read it. I want you to read it. I want you to share it with people, because you need to understand that Jesus wasn't a Jew, and the people that killed him are still using him for the church, the Catholic Church, and the banksters. They're the bad guys, and they're the same ones that killed Jesus. They just changed the name of the temple. They call it now the Bank of England and the Federal Reserve. And let me share these.
Let me off, man. let me augment that for one moment.
Go
There's
ahead.
a book that's very informative on what Clay was just talking about. It was written by a Jewish historian by the name of Arnold Koestler, and you could get it from Amazon, and it's called The 13th Tribe that confirms everything that Clay said.
Yes, sir.
There's also another book of how the word Jew was first used in the 17th century. It's called Pandora's Box by Alex Christopher, if you could get your hands on it. Of course I have it.
Now, let me give you this quote, and Russell, maybe you can tell people who said this. My feelings as a Christian draw me to my Lord and Savior as a fighter. I'm being drawn to the man who, standing alone with only a few followers, recognized these Jews for what they were and summoned men to fight against them, and who, God's truth, was the greatest, not as a sufferer, but as a fighter. In boundless love as a Christian and a man, I read through the passage which tells us how the Lord at last rose up in his might and took the scourge to drive out of the temple this brood of vipers and adders. How terrific was his fight for the world against this poison. Today, after 2,000 years, with deepest emotion, I recognize more profoundly than ever the fact that it was for this that he had to shed his blood upon the cross. As a Christian, I have no duty to allow myself to be cheated, but I have the duty to be a fighter for truth and justice. I've tried to do this and tell you what is happening, what was happening in this country. When I exposed this information in March of 2004, and they tried to kill me for it. You know who said that?
No, I really don't.
Adolf
Was it you?
Hitler. Adolf Hitler.
I'll be damned. Well, you know, when you say that, that's not really all that surprising.
No,
When we
he
know,
tried to save the German people.
That's when we know that they loved him so, and that he turned their economy around because he was kicking the banksters out.
That's right.
And
He certainly did.
recognized what was happening because of the banksters
That's right.
to his country and why they were so upside down.
Same thing is happening here right now, or has already happened.
Yeah, it's interesting. Do you know what's happening in with Crimea and the Ukraine? The Ukraine and basically Georgia, the Ukraine, that whole area there, that's where these bastards came from. That is Khazaria, and they're going back in, and they killed 11 million Ukrainians during World War II. They're trying to do the same thing again, and they're trying to get us again fighting Russia. Right now, I would take Putin over Obama in a heartbeat. I would rather have a government controlled by Putin of Russia than I would this new world order creation called
exactly.
Obama.
I think, Mr. Douglas, don't you believe that, don't you see that there's, or I do you see the same thing that I'm seeing, that there are a lot of people that feel the same way that you do? That we would rather be controlled by, well, of course, I don't want to be controlled by anybody. I've already had that done, been there, done that, lost big time. But I'd rather be under Putin than I would be Obama. I think an awful lot of people are saying the same thing. I'm seeing it everywhere. People are waking up to that, and they're also waking up to the Federal Reserve, to what that is. They already know that the media is controlled by the Jewish Zionists, although they don't understand what Zionism is, and so they stay away from that topic because they don't understand it.
Well, you've been programmed. You've been programmed to react. And Russia.
Clay, I want you to tell us your honest opinion of Vladimir Putin.
I think he is a great man. I think they will try to demonize him. They will try to get us to start a war. They'll try to get him to start a war. I think he's highly intelligent. I think that it's quite possible that after being ruled by these Zionists, by these Bolsheviks, for 100 years, the people of Russia, they elected Putin because he stood up to them. The same reason the Germans elected Adolf Hitler, because he stood up to them. And I think it's quite possible that even China, after Mao Zedong murdered 100 million Chinese, that they have started to realize what they're facing here, realize the evil that they're facing, and that's why we have something occurring right now called BRICS. That BRICS stands for Brazil, India, Russia, and China. This is a banking system that the Chinese are going to back with gold. They've been saving their gold. We've had all of ours stolen by the Rothschilds, by the Zionists. There's probably not an ounce of gold left in Fort Knox. It's all in the basements of the Federal Reserve, if we got any at all.
I think the gold is in the houses of the global elite. And an ironic quick story, at the Louvre in France, in Paris, I watched a guy in 1998 doing a picture of the Mona Lisa right next to the actual Mona Lisa. And I realized that his picture is so good, that Mona Lisa that's on the wall in the Louvre is not the Mona Lisa, because these Khazar Jews have stolen everything, and it's probably in their living rooms or in their dens or in their offices. They've stolen everything. As far as Fort Knox, George Green of NoHopes.com, I did a seminar with him in 2004 at a Sheraton in Fort Lauderdale. He told me that a bunch of guys broke into Fort Knox and there's no gold there because it was all given away. And I believe that.
I would believe
well,
that
I don't
too.
think that there's many of us that believe that there's any gold left in Fort Knox. No, I don't. I know for time's sake, we're going to have to push on, because this was really supposed to be more of an interview with you, and I really have some questions. I love the fact that you have Benjamin Friedman's words on your website, which again is thefreeamerican.com, or is it just freeamerican.com?
Freeamerican, CAN.com, yes ma'am.
Okay. And then you also have your blog talk show.
Yes ma'am, that's all linked.
And I'd like...
That's all linked
Please
on
go
my
ahead and tell us
website.
about that.
That's linked on my website. All you have to do is go click on the name of my guest on that day. That takes you to Blog Talk. And I probably got over 1,000 episodes on YouTube. I've got all my shows are posted on Facebook, Free American 69, YouTube, Free American 69, Twitter, Free American 69. And if you go to Blog Talk and you put in Clay Douglas, you can hear, years of shows that I've done.
And you've been on Blog Talk for how long?
I just posted an interview with an infamous Zionist by the name of Lee Kaplan, and that was from 2008. So I've been doing that Blog Talk pretty much since I got out of the hospital over 10 years ago.
Clay, why don't you tell us about the fraudulent Alex Jones as well as Ted Cruz, the other fraud?
Well, Alex Jones is real simple. He's Jewish.
Thank you.
Well, I didn't think that he was Jewish. I knew his wife is Jewish, but
No,
I
he got.
I didn't
I
know
have
that
it
he
up.
was. His last name is certainly not.
I have it up on my Facebook site. Alex Jones. He got somebody called in, and he started going, "Well, now we didn't screen your calls. You know, tell people we didn't screen your calls." And he starts talking about the Zionists, starts talking about the protocols of the elders of Zion, and Alex got a little frustrated. He goes, "Well, hey, I'm Jewish. I'm Jewish. You think all the Jews are to be eliminated?" "Well, yes, sir." "Well, I'm Jewish. I'm Jewish." And frankly, Alex, I let him in one of my, I let him have a booth at one of my expos that I did up in Mesquite in Dallas. And I did a Free American Expo there over 10 years ago. And we were having dinner afterwards, and I looked at him and I said, "Alex, did it ever occur to you that your wife might be your handler?" He's never talked to me since. Never spoken to me since. And when I got out of the hospital, Alex did not do anything, did not tell him. Nobody even knew I was still alive.
Well, I guess if he's, I still don't understand that from his name, but that I knew that his wife was Jewish, so that's pretty good. I mean, I know that listening to him rant and be so negative constantly is, it's wearing. It's just tiring.
Well, that's why he always
really
talks. He always talks about Nazis. He will never talk about the Zionists. He will never talk about Israel. He will never say anything negative about Jews. It's all Hitler. It's all Nazis. It's all about Nazis. And I believe that some of the Nazis were really not very good guys. And matter of fact, I think they probably got that whole name from the Ashkenazi Jews. But that's just
Of
my
course they
personal
did. Jordan Maxwell, I got that inference from him many years ago on the phone.
Well, I've had Jordan on my show. I've known him for years. Anthony Hilder for years. And, it's... Eustace Mullins was a good friend of mine. He appeared in some of my shows.
Great man. Great man. Have all his books.
I was just trying to rescue him, and I was I sold off some property to try to bring him down so I could help take care of him. And he died right before I could do that.
Oh, gosh. You sound like a caring man. Yet they're scared to death of you, and have tried to kill you. Our government, our esteemed government.
Some government.
I do wonder, the same as you, as to why they're so afraid of one Texas man that's been talking about history, their own history.
I really don't know, and it's a question that really bothers me. Right now, I'm working on a new website, claydouglas.com. I'm working and I'm doing some articles for that website. And the latest one I'm going on, I've just had some things happen here. As a matter of fact, I call my next article "The Stuff of Nightmares." And one of the things that occurred here, I called my sister, older sister, and I asked for the phone numbers of her sons, my nephews, and she said, "I can't give it to you." I said, "Why? What do you mean?" "They don't want you to have it. They don't want you to be able to call them." And that's what's happened with my sons. It's happened with my wife. It's happened with, my cousin who got married in my backyard in Miami, and suddenly after the accident he didn't want to talk to me. when this accident happened in 2010, when I got out of the hospital and when I got back on the streets, everything had changed. In my article here, I said I can remember what passed for a normal existence, at least for me. Businesses, boats, bikes, fast cars, expensive hotels, nice restaurants, plane flights over oceans, mountains, waving fields of grain. There are pleasant memories of beautiful women, casinos, concert, wives, children, graduation, weddings, penthouse parties, presidential campaigns, toy runs, deep-sea fishing, sales trips, expos, speaking engagements, making films and working with Hollywood productions, Thanksgiving dinners, Christmas parties, conversations with authors, stars, politicians, and managing thousands of subscriptions. People eager to meet me, shake my hand, shop owners, and sales of advertising and products across the country year after year. Then it all ended on May 20th, 2004. My life has not been the same. I thought in a way that it was, they tried to put me in kind of the same condition of our vets. They tried to give me drugs. I wouldn't take the drugs. My response, my response was the only drugs I need, the only thing I need is a joint and a Harley. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little Boone Swan wine. Apple.
And
Well, I take it that I may get a phone call or a visit from Homeland Security or one of the alphabet soup agencies now.
Well, probably not, because I've already been on your show. They just interrupted our call that one time. Probably will happen again. And so, no, they probably won't do anything. They probably won't say anything to you. And they know they can't stop me. They can't silence me. They can't shut me up. So I really, they have called people and said, oh, why are you going on the Clay Douglas show? You know, we think he's a subversive. But I doubt very seriously if they would hassle you at all, because it's already said and done.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I agree. I think there's too many people single out us, to tell you the truth. Too many people are protesting today. We've had it. We're done.
Well, you know, let me ask you a question, Mr. Douglas. How long do you think we have until the globalists collapse the dollar? That's a burning question in my mind.
I don't know, because I don't think they really want to. What they want to do is continue stealing from you by inflation. And it may be that these Chinese and these BRICS countries, Russia, China, India, Russia, are going to come out with their own money, their own gold-backed currency. And
I do too.
there will be a shift here.
They've already been talking about that.
You know, what they're trying to do with the United States here, again, I told you what was happening here all over 10 years ago. I told you about the whole merger of Mexico, Canada, and the United States. This is why you're seeing all of these people moving here, all these illegals being sent here. They're underwriting them with thousands of dollars in checks from the IRS.
Mm-hmm.
So they're in no hurry to collapse the currency, but you can't buy anything here. All the jobs are being shipped over. All of our industry is being shipped over. I just had a gentleman on my show that developed what we really need, and that's a little magnetic generator. And I said, well, when are you going to come out with it? He says, I'm not here. If I try to come out with it in the United States, they will kill me. I'm going to Indonesia. I've got backers in Indonesia, and they want it there because they don't want to string a bunch of copper wire across oceans, from island to island. So they want this technology. And one of my friends, he'd like to run for president, and he's already got his platform figured out: hemp and hydrogen in 2014. And that's really what we need. The whole move, I'd say what's happening in Colorado and Washington is the most positive thing that's happening in this country in 100 years. Restoring hemp, the plant of renown the Bible talks about. Our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, and our flag was all made out of hemp. We conquered a world using hemp, and now even the U.S. Navy has decided they can alter a battleship, a destroyer, to run on the water it floats on. They don't have to buy the Rockefeller gasoline. They don't have to buy the oil fuel. And they're going to try to do their best to stop that from happening. I've got friends that invented a carburetor they call the GEAT device, GEAT International, Paul Pantone, and they put him in an insane asylum for 2.5 years because they don't want you getting 50 miles to the gallon. There are cars that are being made in Europe or Australia or China that can get 100 miles to the gallon, but can't have them here.
No, Lord, there's no way they'd want us to have that. No.
No, that sets
No, they
us
haven't
free.
drained us enough.
And
They haven't drained us enough.
those even solar they've tried to make too expensive. And the whole fact is we could be driving on electric cars, and we got the technology, we got the wheels out right now. You can bolt onto an electric car that'll charge battery while it's rolling down the street.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm sure that people know the story. Well, I'm not sure, but surely a lot of you know the story about that there's I can't remember the state that it was in, but I remember my dad happened to have driven through it and saw a pile of brand new electric cars that they had literally picked up and put in a pile to destroy. A brand new electric car, because they didn't want for us to have them.
No. No. What did Rockefeller say? What did Rockefeller say?
All over the United States.
What did Rockefeller say? Oh, competition's a sin. We could be running on hemp. We could be running on alcohol. You know, this is what Prohibition was about, to stop the competition with the gas. That Model A, those Model Ts were built to run on alcohol. You can make your own alcohol in your backyard, but they don't want you.
Oh,
they don't want you.
We need to talk. We're going to have you on for an awful lot longer than just 2 hours or
Yeah,
just
once a month.
one show. Yeah, because you're just such a wealth of information. That's what I was trying to convey to our listeners in the beginning of the show when I got messed up there. Y'all couldn't hear me. That Mr. Douglas is truly a wealth of information, and there's so many other questions that I had wanted to ask you. I wanted to ask you about Liberty Villages. It's just a lot of things because we're actually an awful lot alike. But I'm going to have to go to a break because I'm getting older. I don't know about you guys, but I need to go to the powder room. So if y'all don't mind, if we could take a 3-minute break, I'll get right back to y'all.
Can you keep me up and allow me to play a theme song for you?
Oh, okay. Well, I've got one that I had promised I was going to play.
I've got
tonight,
it up here right now.
Go ahead. Okay, all right.
Go right ahead,
Go
dear.
ahead,
This
then.
is Phoenix, Rainbow Bird, Bird of Destiny.
Okay.
All right.
I think I can play that. Well, I'll find it here in just a second.
Okay, well, let me know if not that
I
got
will,
something ready.
yeah, just a second here. I'll get it here.
This is what that I use as a theme, and I love this. It's excellently done.
Yeah, I got it right here. And there's a song performed.
And we're back.
All right, that song was performed by my friend Jimmy Gray. He lives up in Dallas. It was written by me 45 years ago, sitting in a Texas prison cell.
Well, I didn't realize that. You wrote that song?
Yes, ma'am. That and half a dozen
Did you
others.
get credit for that?
Beg your pardon?
did you get credit for that, or did they steal that from you too?
No, I own it. I have it. Nobody else has it, except Russell. And I allowed him to use it.
Yeah.
But I
Well,
don't have. I've never had lawyers. I've never registered these things. I've never even offered it. I don't play music, so I don't write music. So I haven't been able to offer that to recording artists or recording companies. Never done it. Never done it. And I've got quite a few others too. I've got things like pretty esoteric. I went through an esoteric period. I also wrote 2 novels that I'm in the process of editing right now. Wrote those sitting on a...
2 more?
2 more novels, yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. The, 2 more novels.
I've got...
Now, the first 2 are... What are the names of the first 2 again?
Well, the first ones I did 45 years ago. I haven't released because I needed more information. I wrote them in prison, so... And, you know, my offices had IBM selected typewriters because computers hadn't been invented when I wrote them. And so I got to go back and edit them. It was strange. I wrote them as science fiction, but one of them was called The Future Past. Another one was called the Solomon Series. The Future Past was about Lucifer, and
I read that. You sent it to me 13 years ago. It is awesome.
Yes, sir. It's you know, that really gives you a whole different look at the story of ancient aliens, because I don't believe they were aliens at all. I believe they were something entirely different. And you might, and the Solomon novels is about the United States at a future time that in this future, marijuana is legal everywhere. In this future time, well, marijuana is legal in 46 states, and in 4 they've got the same kind of laws that they got today. And what is happening there in my little adventure novels here about a character called Solomon. All the Christians think he's the Antichrist. The Jews think he's the Messiah. And because he controls the drugs coming into the country through the Illuminati, he's one of the wealthiest men on the planet. And I guess the key here and the kicker is that they're both right. He is the Messiah, and he is the Antichrist, just depending on whose side you're on. And so that's...
who controls the drugs?
Hmm?
Who controls the food? Who controls the drugs and who controls the food? I don't know, it's a toss-up.
That's exactly what's happening right now. The Jews control the drugs. The Jews, like Monsanto and Archer Daniels Midland, control the food. What is Monsanto's... and Monsanto, the same people that are giving you this genetically modified crap that rats won't eat, are the same people that gave us the same people that gave us Agent Orange. So now you ask about Liberty Village. You ask about Liberty Village. Let me tell you,
I did.
Anytime a communist regime takes over a country, they go after 3 classes of people in order. They go after the farmers first, because they don't want you to be able to feed yourself. They go after, and that's why the ninth plank on the Communist Manifesto is corporate farms. And then they go after the intelligentsia, that's anybody that's smart enough to know what they're doing. And third, they go after the veterans and law enforcement that might still be loyal to the old regime. And that's where we're at in time right here. They went after the farmers almost 80 years ago when they eliminated hemp from the farms. The farms used hemp as a rotational crop because the roots go so deep into the ground that they pull out a substance that they can only get from prehistoric plant deposits. It's called fulvic acid. And what fulvic acid does is restore cellular damage. And that's why marijuana, cannabis, cures cancer. Because the roots in that plant contains the fulvic acid, and it can keep you young forever and kill cancer.
You're talking about CBD?
Yes, well, that's part of it. That's part of it. But even the THC in cannabis, that cures cancer.
The THC part?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not aware of that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm not aware of that because see, I actually bought some CBD. There's no point in my trying to hide anything that I do. I mean, you know, Homeland Security knows every move I make, every step I take, every breath I take, every keystroke I make. I'll be watching you. That's them. And you know, sorry, but that song just came into my mind. You know.
That's all right. Don Henley's.
I actually ordered some because I have a severely handicapped daughter, and I ordered the CBD. Not the THC. Excuse me, I'm having problems. I had a tooth pull this week, so I'm having a few problems here speaking. But she has severe autism, and I got that because after reading and studying up on it, I realized that, hey, you know, that has so many restorative properties to it that could help her and keep her mind active.
Yes, ma'am.
And keep her body healthy. But the THC I was concerned about, and you're saying something different.
The gentleman in Canada made hash oil out of his cannabis and gave it to his friends, and it cured cancer. Somewhere I got his name here. I've had him on my show before. He got exiled from Canada, went over to Europe or Bosnia or someplace like that, and I think that's where he is right now. Rick Simpson. Rick Simpson, he has Phoenix Tears, and he discovered that hash oil, the THC in the hash oil, and it probably has the CDBs in it too. It cures cancer. I was really excited when I was living in Arizona and they got medical marijuana. I said, wow, man, maybe for the first time in 45 years I won't be a criminal anymore. but it turns out that I didn't qualify. I couldn't get medical marijuana. Seems I'm a little too healthy.
And why is that?
I'm too healthy. I'm too healthy. I don't need a doctor, and I don't believe I need to pay a doctor bribe a doctor to give me a prescription for something that God gave me. And the reason I'm so healthy is I've been smoking it for 45 years. So, like I said, when I got out of the hospital, the only thing I need is a joint and a Harley. Leave me alone.
Well, I suppose that the reason why you think there's a reason why Homeland Security is after you. Goodness gracious, I'm going to have to stop talking tonight. If this keeps up, is because you are after the Zionists and you are 100% against this flawed, abject failure called the drug war.
The war on drugs is Ayn Rand was absolutely right. Government has no control over honest citizens, so they have to make criminals out of us. And that's what the drug laws are about. This is what the banking laws are about. This is what the hate laws are about. They are trying to find a way to make you into a criminal.
Oh, and they got 76 ways from Sunday to do it.
But, well, you can invest in the stock market in private prisons. So, Jesus, we've got more people in prison today. And, if a man with a badge can come up and say, "Whoa, what's that you got in your pocket? Whoa, you're going to go to jail. You're going to be working for IBM for the next 5 years at 25 cents an hour." Prisons are competing against American industry right now. We are doing the same thing that we accused China of doing. They're slave labor. It's slave labor in prisons, and you don't have to worry about them not showing up. You don't have to worry about them getting a flat tire. You don't worry about them taking vacations. And they're making money off of you in the stock market, and they're taking $50,000 a year out of your pocket, ladies and gentlemen, your pocket, to give it to the prisons, so they can keep more Americans in prison, on parole, on probation, than any other nation out there, any other country out there. Land of the free, home of the brave? I don't think so.
Clay, where were you in 1968?
1968, I was either in Arizona or California, someplace like that.
Because to augment on what you said, in 1968, I was in the final year of a 3-year bid in Comstock, New York, Great Meadow Correctional Institution, and in regards to this drug war, they passed the Rockefeller bill, the Rockefeller drug program, and all these guys signed up for it, and they thought they were going into a rehab for 5 years. They sent them up to Comstock and Greenhaven, and they came in and got the shock of their lives. What a farce. The drug war is a war against the American people to make honest citizens into criminals, because there is no victim in a drug crime. And if you want to say hard drugs are bad for you and you yourself are the victim, that's your business. We all have free will. These devils, these insidious demons, these human caitiffs, these nefarious, terrifying creatures who I don't believe are really human, are going against the universal law of free will. Remember out there, folks, they do have the free will to inflict their tyranny on you, but you also have the free will to reject it, because action incurs reaction. That is the law of karma. Whatever happens, you sow your own seeds. You want to be a slave, stay on your knees. But I guarantee you out there, if you don't wake up, rise up, and rebel, your children, as I said many times, your grandchildren and their children's children and their children's children, and so on down the line, will die 1,000 deaths each and every day as a Zionist-controlled slave.
That's you're absolutely right. You know, people ask me, well, Clay, don't you think marijuana's a gateway drug? And I said, absolutely. If you got to go to a drug dealer to get it, yeah, he'll be glad to sell you some more meth or some more heroin or some more cocaine. He'll be glad to do that. But if you can grow it in your backyard,
it is a gateway. It's a gateway herb. It's a gateway to higher consciousness.
Yes.
2 weeks ago, Tammy and I were doing a show with Glenn Quagmire, who did a great job. Hey, Glenn, if you're out there, God bless you. And some woman came in, some stupid, moronic, brainwashed, mind-control slave, and said, how could you say marijuana brings higher consciousness? We wouldn't have Obama for president if people didn't smoke marijuana, because they smoke marijuana and go out to vote. Naturally, I embarrassed the shit out of her and we threw her off the show. But I never heard such unadulterated balderdash that people smoke marijuana and vote and they vote for the wrong candidate. Because I said to her, if you go out and vote, number one, they might as well play the theme song for the old Rawhide show. Roll 'em, roll 'em, roll 'em, because you are nothing but a mind-controlled cow, a cattle, a sheeple, a robo-sapien, a demented moron. Well, we got her off the show, but I never heard such. The belief these people are terrifying.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. You know, in Amsterdam, I've been there, and you know, where they've legalized drugs, and you know, when you look at Amsterdam and their drug crime rate and their prisons, you don't see what you see here. It's a totally different world. If this is a victimless crime, if someone wants to harm themselves, they're going to harm themselves. Period. You can't stop people from harming themselves. If they want to go out and drink and drink and drink until they're into oblivion, that's what they're going to do. That's why prohibition didn't work. One of the reasons why it didn't work.
Absolutely.
But the same thing with drugs. It doesn't work. The same thing with prostitution. It just doesn't work. These are victimless crimes. If you're going to harm yourself, then that's what you're going to do.
Well,
but the government has to figure out a way to make money off of it. And their war on drugs is their way of making money.
This is why I wrote and why I'm working on right now, editing this. I'll have it out before the year's end. The Solomon series is about the abolishing. It's a real simple step. You abolish all laws against victimless crimes. If you hurt somebody, you pay for it. If you steal from somebody, you pay for it. If you do whatever you want to do to yourself, do it. You know, we don't need to put people in prison because they smoked a joint. That's the height of ridiculous, and it's almost as bad, probably worse, than the whole war on terror. I've said you've got about as much chance of being killed by a terrorist in America as you do getting eaten by a great white shark in Phoenix.
Yeah.
And the war on terror.
You know, more and more people are realizing this.
The war on terror is a war against anyone, anywhere in the world that opposes one world government of the bankers, by the bankers, and for the bankers.
Absolutely.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And on that note, I'm still going to go ahead and play that song that I had promised my friend I was going to play. If y'all can just wait 3 minutes.
Go right ahead, dear. Go
I
right
think it's
ahead.
so appropriate. he wrote it, and I just love this guy. He's the real deal. And I think that it's a good one to play right now. So I'm going to go ahead and put it on. Everybody take a break for a few minutes, and we'll be right back.
I'm watching the invasion of American plantations, FEMA camps across the nation set to large on population. They claim it's for salvation against nature's devastation, but then why the hesitation when questioned on regulations? Homeland Security is bringing martial law to life just like they did in Germany. Read up on HR 645, we did it to the Japanese internment camps of 42. How is it you believe that they won't do the same to me and you? For you that kept the list, but following your trends from religion to opinion. Now you might fit the description. They'll label you a terrorist and say it's for protection. National defense is authorized indefinite detention. It started under Reagan and continued up through Bush. Obama's got the reins and he's giving it a push. Using drones to bomb civilians, both American and foreign, as they add the legislation meant to keep the truth distorted. It's the calm before the storm as we wait for what's in store. On the brink of civil war, it's nothing like before. Plantations get restored with enslavement of the poor. Self-education short while they training to conform. It's the calm before the storm. It's the calm before the storm. It's the calm before the storm. Calm before the storm. They're hiding in plain sight what they decide. You have no need to know. From fluoride and water supply, the laws behind Monsanto. Food has all been modified and brought to life with pesticides. When food equates to cyanide, your dinner becomes suicide. This is modern warfare, biological, chemical. Poison in the people has become social control. It's just one of many ways that they try to keep a hold of population growth, and now it's you they bought and sold. They assure you that the moment I assure you it gets worse. In the name of country first, it may collateral at first. They tip you with the tax ID to see just what you're worth, and then shackle you with poverty like you deserve this curse. We become our own enemies of tyranny and slavery. You traded your right to be free for ignorance and apathy. We're left with this facade we dare to call democracy. Our first involving laws by the lobby policy. It's the calm before the storm as we wait for what's in store. On the brink of civil war, it's nothing like before. Plantations get restored with enslavement of the poor. So education short while they training to conform. It's the calm before the storm. It's the calm before the storm. Calm before the storm. Calm before the storm. For years you waste of what's an anthem job you hate until you can't live on that wage. You do not dare complain. When bills need to be paid, you got to empty out your bank. So you're waiting for the day that you can finally escape. But what you really get except the shredded empty net. Baby boomers by consumers with dozens of regret. Just expansion of debt. Or was that their intent? Another manufacturer crashes by the dollars to cent. So they auto-duck your check and claim a payment for retirement. And raise the working age and better say it's false entitlement. It's question through recession when you're denied benefits. You're a slave until you die just like a petrified environment. When using common sense becomes terroristic evidence. National defense is looking more like federal offense. They'll call you an extremist and pass on for your arrest. For Occupy to WikiLeaks, truth is anonymous. It's the calm before the storm as we wait for what's in store. On the brink of civil war, it's nothing like before. Plantations get restored with enslavement of the poor. Self-education short while they training to conform. It's the calm before the storm as we wait for what's in store. On the brink of civil war, it's nothing like before. Plantations get restored with enslavement of the poor. Self-education short while they training to conform. It's the calm before the storm. It's the calm before the storm. Calm before the storm. Calm before the storm.
Very good.
Okay, we're back. That was Calm Before the Storm by Switchblade Uncensored. At band, let's see, let me look at that again. That's Switchblade Uncensored at band. I've got to look at that. Very appropriate song as to what we're at bandcamp.com.
How do you spell that?
Friend of mine. It's Switchblade Uncensored.
No, how could I get that on YouTube, or I got to go to the website you said?
To the website that I said. Yeah, you can get it on YouTube too, I believe. But it's Switchblade Uncensored .bandcamp.com. and he writes these himself. And just he lives in the area. I just thought that it was that was one of his best, and I wanted to make sure that we had that on our station at all times. It is the calm before the storm. Well said. Well written. Yeah, it's Mr. Douglas. We still got you with us, don't we?
Yes, ma'am. Right here.
I think what we were talking about was the insane drug on wars. Before I went to that, and the industrial prison complex, and how it's just complete insanity. All it does is just make criminals out of all of us, and the more laws and rules and regulations that they write, then the more crimes that we commit. We're probably all committing, a crime every single day and don't even know about it. In my view, we're probably committing several.
They're trying to make it illegal.
So
They're trying to make it illegal to grow a garden in your backyard. They're trying to stop that. They just went after some people in Arlington, Texas. Up there, it was called the Garden of Eden.
Eden.
Yeah, and they went after them, stomped on their tomato plants. No drugs, nothing there, but raided them. And that's what my whole plan for Liberty Villages started out with a 5-acre ranch that I had, a little 5-acre plot off the highway there. I figured if we grew our own food and generated our own power from wind and sun, everything God gave us, we didn't really need the bankers or the government for nothing. And then people said, well, I can't move out there. You're 30 miles from town. I got jobs. I said, well, where did your neighborhood come from? You live in a neighborhood in Arlington and Dallas and Fort Worth. Where'd your neighborhood come from? It was a farm or a ranch at one time. So grow grass in your backyard. Turn your roof into solar panels, and have your house generate its own power. Grow your own food in the backyard, and you got if you can get everybody on your block to do the same thing, you have a totally self-sufficient neighborhood. They're scared to death of that. Maybe another reason they tried to kill me there, because I was showing people how they could be free, how they could be independent, how they could be self-sufficient. And we do have some positive farms. There's a place called a company called Bright Farms, and they are really solving the whole number of problems at once. They have made deals with supermarket chains, and they are putting greenhouses on the roofs of the supermarkets, and so the vegetables that you buy in the supermarket were picked that day, and they didn't have to ship them from Mexico. They didn't have to use Rockefeller's gasoline, and there are no genetically modified foods allowed that way. So we are making headway. They're actually working in 6 states right now, and we got 2 states that you can grow marijuana. I mean, if they abolish the laws against victimless crimes, you got a money tree right there, folks. That cannabis plant that God gave you could generate enough money for you to live off of.
Well, unfortunately, we don't have enough time to go into Liberty Village, and I really wanted to go into that with you.
Well, I can always come back anytime that you'd like me, darling.
Well, thank you very much. I would love for you to come back with us. You've been just a wealth of information, and though I've had all kinds of problems because you came on. It doesn't bother me a bit. I've got all kinds of problems all the time. As everyone knows, when you listen to my old shows or something like that, you'll realize that, yeah, this old gal's been through quite a bit this past year, and so, who is it? It's Gerald Salente. What is it that he always says? When you've lost everything, and then you've got nothing left to lose, then and I've lost just about everything. I believe, hence my name, Prepping for the New World Order. I believe in being self-sufficient, and I would love to talk with you about that some more on our show. But as I say, that's going to take a hell of a lot more than 3 minutes, and that's all we've got left. So with 3 minutes left in the show, I want to thank you so much for being on with us tonight, because I know that you are so busy with your magazines and your own show and everything. I can't believe, because of your friendship with Russell, of course, I realize that's why you came on, and I appreciate that. I just wanted to thank you for it.
It's my pleasure. And folks, if you want to help out, I don't expect everybody to try to do what I do, what Russell does, what you do. Yeah, it's dangerous. Yeah, we're in a war. But you can do something. If you make a donation, if you go to freeamerican.com, click on a donate button, you can make a donation. And you can't believe how much that helps. They don't want you to hear me. They don't want you to read me. You can't get the Free American in a library. You can't go into Office Depot and pull up Free American on one of their computers. And if you work at Intel and Intuit, you can't get it. They are scared to death of me. They don't want you being educated. They don't want you knowing about the college and the little red schoolhouse that you can find on my site. Just go to Free American, click on a donate button. Donate what you can. And you can also go to Free American shop at shop.freeamerican, www.shop.freeamerican.com. I've got my books up there. I've got my novels up there. I've got my magazines up there. You used to buy Russell bought my magazine for $5 from Barnes & Noble. I might have made a quarter off of it. Today you can buy my magazine for $2.99, and I make all of that. I've cut out all the middlemen.
And folks, I want to thank y'all. For listening. I did not schedule additional time. I should have.
No problem.
Thank you all for listening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Mr. Douglas. We want you back.
Great job, Clay. Great job. Great show.
Thank you, Russell. I sure appreciate it, bud. God
I
bless you.
appreciate you.
Thank you so much for coming on with us.
All right.
Thank
See
you so much for
again
coming
soon.
on with us.
Bye-bye.
Good night, folks.
Good night.